In the not too distant future, next Sunday AD, there was a guy named Joel, not too different from you or me.
Hello, I'm Faith, and welcome to Faith's Take, where I talk about anything and everything that I find interesting. And welcome to my review of MST3K episode 102, The Robot vs. the Aztec Mummy. This is the second episode of season 1 of the show, and may I just say, it's even worse than the last one. You see, I haven't seen the entirety of season 1, and I was hoping it would only improve after the crawling eye. But no, not in the slightest, really. But I shouldn't complain, since I couldn't do better, especially since this is one of the most boring and confusing messes of a movie I've ever seen. So let's go ahead and dive right into episode 102, The Robot vs. the Aztec Mummy. Similarly to the last episode, we go right into the invention exchange, and while Joel's isn't particularly interesting, the Mads have something that could come in handy in those awful social situations.
Alright, okay, you're throwing a party, it's 3 a.m., and none of the guests are leaving. That's when you bring out the chalk man.
Yes, as every self-respecting scientist knows, the sound of human fingernails on a chalkboard is most annoying. Now, place it on the platen. Well, what do you think of that, Joelmeister?
Wow, it's really annoying.
Thank you. It's called The Robot versus the Aztec Mummy, and it's almost as annoying as this chalk man here.
Yes, but first we're going to scour your palate with a little cinematic science fiction sorbet. It's an old cereal called Commando Cody and the Rocket Men from the Moon.
Movie sign!
Now it's time for the experiment, but before the main feature, we get the first short in MST3K history, Commando Cody Chapter 1, Moon Rocket. After Joel gives Tom a brief description of what a cereal is, we start our quote-unquote story. The US has suffered several recent atomic explosions, but no one knows where they're coming from. As it turns out, there's been a lot of atomic activity on the moon lately, so the government assumes that must be where the blasts are coming from, because of course that's the only logical conclusion. We then cut to a couple of baddies who use a ray gun to blow a train right off the tracks. This is when Commando Cody springs into action to combat the fiends.
Yeah. You ever heard of serials before?
Yeah, light out.
No, a movie that's in series.
What?
Oh, you'll catch on. It's not a whole movie.
Why would someone go and see part of a movie? Is the music always this poor at cereals?
Yes.
Holy.
Hey, look, there's a sale at Penny's.
Big stuff blowing up everywhere.
Tests of the wreckage show that the explosions are of atomic origin.
But no one has ever been able to make an atomic ray machine.
You mean no one on Earth ever has?
Huh?
And for some time, our astronomers have been noticing an unusual amount of atomic activity on the moon.
Isn't any amount of atomic activity on the moon unusual?
Atomic...
There she is, right on time.
It's a train, all right.
Whoa.
Feels good, don't it?
That did it.
I'm out of here. Oh, mommy! Oh! Jane, stop this crazy thing! He was cleverly disguised as a Hershey's Kiss.
I think he's just drawn attention to himself.
Let's get out of here.
Stupid.
Leave the ray gun? What else can we do?
Well, you could take the truck.
Nah.
Well, much better to run in the desert on foot with no provisions or anything.
After being defeated by our hero, the bad guys head back to their lair empty-handed to meet with their boss, a man from the moon. He demands they head back to Cody's lab and grab the power source of the ray gun that they lost. How the boss knows who Cody is and where he's stationed, I don't know, but the thugs go and hold Cody at gunpoint. After a fight, they get what they came for and head back to the cave.
Loss of the ray gun is not too serious. I brought sufficient equipment from the moon to build several of them. From the description you gave me of your attacker's costume, it must have been Commando Cody in his flying suit.
Or trash can head.
You're being well paid for your work, so do as you're ordered.
Yeah, well paid, but in moon rocks.
Oh, I hate to shoot a butt like that.
Yeehaw!
Good thing scientists are such good fighters.
1, 2, 3 strikes. You're out of there.
Routine 27.
Don't try to follow us.
Tell your friends.
Finally, it's time for the rocket launch. Cody and his band of merry men hop on the horizontally positioned ship, ready to take off to the moon, and they all seem pretty chill about it, considering they're taking a trip that no man has ever faced to a place that they suspect is full of hostile people wanting them dead. Once they land, Cody decides to scope the place out first. Of course, the moon people notice an unspecified rocket landing there, and they demand that Cody head in to meet their leader. Here, the ruler gives his required villain spiel about his plans and why they've been attacking the Earth. A fight ensues, but can Commando Cody make it out? Tune in next time to find out.
The best of luck to all of you, sir. Hope this thing works all right.
So do we. Goodbye.
Goodbye, sir.
We'll just wait back here where it's safe by the thrusters.
Safety belts fastened.
They're sitting in office chairs.
Fire pilot. Then I'll fly over the city in the rocket suit. Okay.
Yeah, a guy in a leather jacket with his butt on fire. They'll never notice that.
Hey, the moon looks just like Arizona, you guys.
You are going in the right direction, Earthman.
How'd they know my name?
Apparently you were expecting me.
Of course. For many years, our radio has kept us informed of events on Earth. And my men there have advised me of your every move.
I've loved you from afar.
Our language telling me why your men are carrying out that campaign of destruction on Earth?
It's an election year.
Oh,
Eat lead, space pansy. Oh, I thought that was a smoke detector.
You could see they're a more advanced civilization. Their furniture doesn't break.
And that leads us to our first mid-experiment host segment. I don't really have much to discuss when it comes to the segments in this episode. They're not very funny and kind of feel generic in some weird way, but I can't really blame them since the film and the short don't really offer much material for them to work with. So let's go ahead anyway. A band of demon dogs have covered the satellite of love and they refuse to leave. Servo volunteers to shoo them away, and it goes about as well as you'd expect.
Oh, I think I know what's wrong. Cambot, follow me over here. Look at them. They're seem like a bunch of demon dogs or
What are
something.
demon dogs?
Well, they're like chihuahuas, but without any flesh, and it looks like they're covering the ship. I need a man, a volunteer, somebody to go out there and shoo them off.
Oh, I think the choice is obvious. Who's bad?
Tom Servo.
Who's bad?
Tom Servo.
That's right, I'm bad. Now give me a rolled up newspaper and don't bother to shut the door. I'll be right back. Keep my dinner warm. For everybody off, this is Tom Servo, your worst doggy nightmare. Oh, wait, stop it. Oh, let me in. Oh, jeez. Oh.
Tom Servo, what happened?
Well, Joel, there's only one way to put it. They disgraced themselves on me. I feel so dirty.
Hasn't affected your looks any.
Ooh. Tom, listen, there's been something I've been dreading telling you since the date of your creation. When you were still on the drawing board, I based your plans on a fire hydrant.
Oh, man, you can look me in the bubble and tell me that? I'm a public utility.
After Tom's bit of misfortune, it's back into the theater. Now it's time for the feature presentation, The Robot versus the Aztec Mummy. And the first interesting thing, in fact the only interesting thing about this movie, is that the English dub was done by one K. Gordon Murray, the guy behind the English dub of Santa Claus and the Santa's Workshop shorts done by Riff Tracks. Don't you feel better about this movie already? After the credits, we hear a brief bit of narration that assures us that this film is indeed based off of real experiments, and don't you doubt it for a second. Dr. Armada, whose name I honestly didn't catch until the third act of the movie, by the way, invites some old colleagues to his house to inform them of a recent experiment he performed on his wife Flora. After hypnotizing her, he found out that in her past life she lived among the Aztec people. His wife was going to be sacrificed, but she decided to run away with her forbidden lover. Unfortunately for them, they were found out. Her lover was then buried alive and then cursed for eternity. You'd think the gruesome death would have been punishment enough.
Robot?
Yay!
Versus the Aztec Mummy? Ooh. When in Coral Gables, Florida, visit Sound Lab, Inc. and visit our glass-bottom boats.
When in San Fernando, visit Manuel.
How far can the human mind penetrate the mysteries of the great beyond?
13 feet 4 inches, 1920
This
Olympics.
picture, there is no doubt as to its authenticity.
Except for our own
Testimony
doubts.
of people. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Good
Dr.
evening.
Diaz, Dr. Esther, what a pleasure to have you
Dr.
here.
Kildare, Dr. Scholl, Dr. Pepper.
I think it's time I revealed something very serious.
Let's hear it then.
My underwear is 100 years
It's
old.
about the Aztec breastplate and the bracelet, gentlemen. How's that?
I put them on at night
Why,
and
the whole
dance.
thing was forgotten. Although you already know part of the history, there are some things that you ignore.
Like you?
I think the best thing to do is to begin at the beginning.
I think that's begin to
You both
begin.
recall, do you not? During her past life, Flora had lived among the great peoples of the Aztec. She told us such strange things, amazing things.
Naughty things.
Far back in those days, she was deeply in love with a brave and high-born warrior called Popoka. Their
They
love
had a
was so
mad
strong
posh
that it
for
did not answer
hats.
to reason. As punishment, the warrior was buried alive, and an eternal curse was placed upon him.
Then things got bad.
And then Zamfir, master of the pan flute, played.
One interesting thing about our riffers here is that Joel did some weird things in the theater that wouldn't make it past this season. For instance, when the couple is being punished, a terrible singer takes the Aztec stage and Joel covers her mouth. As he does this, her voice actually gets muffled. This type of effect obviously didn't last long in the series, because it's really cheating. If we were in a movie theater, we certainly couldn't do that, so Joel shouldn't be able to either. After the overly long ritual, they prepare to cut the girl's heart out. Right before they get the chance, his wife in the present day begins to have a fit and break out of her trance. The doctor then tells of how he, his wife, their child, and the very doctors he's talking to right now headed down a long tunnel to find an ancient Aztec breastplate to substantiate his story. How an old breastplate could prove that he hypnotized his wife and that she was going to be sacrificed to an Aztec god in a previous life, I don't know, but I guess we'll just roll with it. After finding the armor they were searching for, they're attacked by the titular Aztec Mummy, who's actually the girl's old lover who was tasked with guarding the breastplate for the entirety of his undead life.
Stop that.
That's better.
Peeling the chrome off my body. Mazola con goodness. The ceremony lasted well into the night.
The experiment had been a complete success. But since we realized that no one would believe us unless we could come up with absolute proof,
We decided to search in the
for the
basement.
breastplate
I
and
couldn't wait to show them my bumper pool table.
Why Floyd brought the beaver, I don't know. I think a swag lamp here and a beaded curtain would really brighten the place up.
It's the Phantom of the Opera.
What is it?
It looks like a well.
Well, I think it's an air shaft, but undoubtedly it will lead us somewhere.
Probably to the temple.
Maybe to air.
No, Edward. Don't do it.
Do it, Edward, do it!
The Aztec warrior had come back to life. Let's put out the
I'm
light
not
to
an
have idea.
animal. I'm a Aztec mummy.
A mummy comes back to life after hundreds of years in a sepulcher.
Dr. Diaz, you have my word of honor that the story I have been telling is the truth.
Okay, mixed with a little fiction.
Popoka,
Okay, I'm lying
as
my
I
butt
told
off.
you, was punished because his curse was to guard the priceless bracelet as well as the golden breastplate. To do so for all eternity.
Or 100,000 miles,
Under
whatever
this
came
terrible
first.
curse,
After his long-winded story, we head back to the bridge where the demon dogs are still barking up a storm. The leader of the dogs, named Enoch, played by Jim Mallon, and whose mouth loudly clacks like there's no tomorrow, heads into the SOL to chat with Joel and the bots. It turns out that the dogs have mistaken the satellite for the giant bone that was prophesized to them by whatever it is they worship. The only good part about this scene is Crow ribbing the dog and not being as polite to him as Joel is. However, as Joel and Enoch try to get along, Gypsy, still in her more animalistic phase as a character, ends up eating Enoch whole, leaving the crew with no way of disposing the dogs.
Don't let him in.
Hey, come on in here. Come on up.
Oh, not on the furniture. That's not good.
I am Enoch, king and charismatic leader of the dog people. Arf, arf.
Cute.
We have traveled many parsecs to pray to the giant bone and just maybe get a taste. Our intention was to bury you on the far side of the moon, but now we'll have to change our plans.
And you got to get your followers off our ship. There's so many of them, and they're multiplying at such an alarming rate that we're going to go into the Earth's atmosphere and explode.
Yeah, and then you'll be hot dogs.
First, let us exchange pleasantries. Then we will drink Tranya.
From a dish on the floor, boy?
Oh, now
Hey,
stop
hey, hey,
it. Let's... Oh, wait a minute. You haven't met Gypsy yet. This is Gypsy.
Hey!
Gypsy, no! Gypsy, no! Come on, no!
Hey!
Oh, no, we're kibble!
Way to go, girl!
Movie side!
Doggone.
Back to the movie, where the Doctor's story still isn't over, and the mummy somehow kidnapped Flora and planned to kill her. She's quickly rescued, though, and it turns out an evil scientist named Dr. Krupp, aka the Bat, was behind the whole thing. After being hypnotized and re-kidnapped, this time by the Bat himself, Flora takes him straight to the Aztec breastplate. After bringing everything to his lab, the Bat demands that the Doctor come and aid him in his research. However, the mummy comes and finds the lab and attacks Krupp and his henchmen while Flora and the Doctor escape. After presuming them all dead, the doc heads back with the cops to find the bodies have all disappeared. Soon after, Krupp ends up kidnapping Flora through hypnotism again, and after the longest plod through a cemetery ever, he sees the mummy with the armor he stole back. However, it's currently too dangerous for him to just take the armor for some reason, so he just takes Flora home and hypnotizes her to forget everything that just happened. So these last 5 minutes were completely pointless.
It lunged at me, and its enormous hands got hold of my throat. Life was leaving me rapidly when Flora's father suddenly held a cross up in front of its face.
Which was odd, because he was Jewish.
The whole the mummy at Bat had been sent to prison. Of course, we
Bat?
thought the whole business had come to an end. But it didn't happen that way.
Who's the Bat?
The Bat, who is really the infamous Dr. Krupp.
Oh.
The moment arrived when I could stall no longer. I finished it. That's fine.
Let's see
I
here.
hope you'll
We
keep
the
your promise
people
now and
of...
set us all
Hey,
free.
this'll never work.
Oh, yes. You know what to do now, don't you, Bruno?
Start a victory garden?
Have a bake sale?
Support Radio Free Europe?
Collect shiny things?
Buy bonds where you work or bank?
Get a gun?
Mommy's home. Now you're gonna get it.
Doctor, help me! Can't you hear? No! Help me!
Yeah, you're first on our list of people to help.
Then when he saw the doctor trying to escape, picked him up like a rag doll and threw him into a pit full of rattlers.
Every good laboratory has a pit full of rattlers. Would that be a bad touch?
Yeah, I think so.
Permit me to continue.
Hey, it's your
All these
movie.
tragic happenings, the laboratory had been dismantled, and the bodies of the criminals that the mummy had killed had also disappeared.
They were dismantled as well.
That there was a small door in the back wall of the pit, through which the doctor could have escaped.
He was such a large man. How could he?
Are you listening? I command you to come to me.
I'm coming.
But grave consequences.
Yikes.
Sorry.
I'll shut you off.
Don't do it.
Look, Peter Graves.
Who's buried in Peter's grave?
James Arness.
You stinking devil. Oh, I'd like to chop your rotten flesh to pieces.
Bruno, stop letting hate run your
Certainly
life.
be great to do so.
Who's he hiding
But
his
you know
face
it's not
from?
possible now.
His agent, I
Going
think.
to make my he'll wake up in an instant and destroy us.
Sounds okay to me.
Anything you say.
Can and will be used against you.
Wow, a lot of good acting in that scene. Joel, what was the point of this little scene here?
I don't know. I think they were just staking out a location to come and shoot here later when they had something meaningful to do.
Oh.
The next morning, still within the doctor's story that is, Flora wakes up with a headache but no memory of the previous night. But her nightgown and slippers are filthy, and the doctor decides to find out why. He comes to the correct conclusion immediately and knows that Flora was hypnotized and used by Krupp, as if there was any other explanation given what their lives are like. So he and his, I don't know, lab assistant I guess, head with her dirty slippers to get the mud and gunk on them examined. It turns out the slippers are covered in evidence that, against all odds, prove the doctor's obvious assumptions right. And I thought Batman was supposed to be the world's greatest detective.
What's that you've got on your gown?
It's all dirty.
Looks like
That's
dead, dried
funny.
flesh.
You've been Come on, what have you been up to?
Just cavorting with mummies all night.
It's funny. After I took my bath, I went to bed because I was tired.
Yes, but you got up later on, didn't you?
I did?
So it seems to me that the bat controls her from a distance.
With sonar.
It's logical.
What a sleuth.
Your suspicions are correct. They're pieces of marble.
You're sure it's marble?
Marble?
Can you identify its source? Is it
Cat's
special
eye.
kind?
She went out late at night and played marbles. What could it mean?
And for our final mid-movie segment, we see basically a repeat of the first one. In this case, though, Crow's the one being sent out, disguised as Enoch to entice the dogs to leave. And once again, as you'd expect, it doesn't work in the slightest, and we get the same outcome as earlier.
I just don't see it at all, guys.
Come on, Crow, I think it'll work. You're the only one of us who even looks a little bit like Enoch did.
Oh, Crow, come on, it'll be easy. You go out there, you say to the demon dogs, come on, everybody, let's go. I'll be right behind you. You duck back in, it's easy.
Great advice coming from Mr. Fireplug. All right, quiet down, quiet down. I am Enoch. I am your lord and charismatic leader, remember? And, hey, what's the leash law here? Hey!
Oh, he's getting it.
Hey!
Kind of a warm feeling, eh, Crow?
Well, I think it went kind of well, you know. They were eating out of the palm of my hand. till I ran out of treats.
We then head back to the theater to wrap up this plotless yet somehow still confusing movie. The Doctor finally gets to the point of this whole story and informs his guests that all of this happened 5 years ago. So after wasting who knows how much of their time as well as ours, he tells them that the Bat has recently stolen some scientific equipment and a human brain, and purchased a bunch of lead from a company that apparently just gives their sales records to any schmo who asks. This is why Doc needed to prattle on to these extraordinarily patient people. You see, Doc and his little buddy are playing to face Krupp alone, and instead of just asking these people if they would come with them, they want these guys to finish the job for them if they die.
All this I've just told you occurred almost 5 years ago. We visited the crypt from time to time to take a look at the mummy, with its breastplate and its bracelet, too.
And the snappy Coco Chanel pantsuit.
Yesterday there was a burglary in the Radiology Institute. The thieves took a machine that uses radium. They also stole a brain out of a laboratory.
Excellent.
This time the police were able to identify the crooks as the Bat and all his band.
We're covering a plot hole with asphalt here.
We're sorry to be a bother to you, but is it just possible that lately you sent out a large shipment of lead? Could you give me that information?
In the last 2 days?
Or it could be a week, more or less.
Let me
5
check.
years, maybe.
Exactly 5 days ago, we made delivery of 20 plates of lead shielding 4 inches in width to number 22 Shade Street.
To a man called the Bat.
Many thanks.
But there's no doubt that Dr. Krupp and his criminals are planning to cause trouble.
That's
Certainly,
what
that's
criminals
also
do
my
best.
In case we're not back here at the house by 3 in the morning, I'm leaving it up to you to call the police.
Sell everything.
As you probably could have guessed, Doc and his assistant are immediately discovered and caught by the bad guys. Dr. Krupp monologues for a bit, explaining how he's been tampering in God's domain, and we finally see what he's created, in his own words, a human robot. Yes, with only 12 minutes left in the film, we get the second title character. And it's not just any robot, it's a robot that uses a real human brain and heart, which just seems inefficient to me. But he's gonna take this creation to go steal the Aztec armor, and I'm no expert, but I'm pretty sure he could have found a cheaper, quicker, and easier method to steal all that in the past 5 years.
Freeze, you two.
This looks like it was shot with the security camera.
I learned about your marriage, and I admit it's a bit late to say it, but receive my congratulations.
And take this toaster and fondue set as a gift.
How are you, all those great mysteries, the very basis of creation?
Then that means that you defy all the limits that were put down by God.
Maybe.
You're completely mad and ignorant also.
Thank you.
You're insane, do you know?
I
Yes.
decided to create. There you have the greatest creation of man's intelligence.
Cool.
A human. Now then, life for the robot.
The only thing diabolical about this guy is his acting.
After the robot wakes up, Krupp goes on another long-winded speech about just how great his overcomplicated plan is, and the bots get particularly sick of hearing this guy. He finally takes off to rob the grave, while the Doc and his pal beat the crud out of the guards. Meanwhile, since they haven't returned safely yet, Flora and the others have called the cops, and show up as soon as they don't need help anymore. Regardless, the entire group then heads to the cemetery to chase down the Bat. And finally, with 3 minutes left, we get the robot versus the Aztec Mummy. And after some quick grunting and awkward hugging, the fight's over as soon as it started. The Mummy then turns on the Bat, as you do, and kills him. Once again, the group shows up as the action comes to an end, and Flora sends the Mummy back to rest. And as the film stumbles to a close, a demon dog comes into the theater while making the most annoying sound ever, and makes MST history as the first of several in-theater visitors we'll see throughout the show.
The table's moving. The table's a better actor than anyone.
They're all made out of the same material. Wood.
He's so powerful. You think that's funny?
This is great. A human robot. With this shining creature, no human being on this earth can oppose me. Do you
Wait, a
understand?
human robot? There's a flaw right there. 3 o'clock
I
and
want you
all's
to
hell.
stop and think. This time you're helpless because no one knows you're here.
Shut up.
Let's hurry. I'm afraid for their lives.
You're afraid for your lives.
I'm afraid for your career.
Way to go.
Well, I think we're about to see the namesake of this movie.
At last I'm gonna have
The
my
robot
revenge.
versus the mummy.
I'm in for 20 on the robot.
You know, what if that the Bat was trying to fool everybody and he's just got a guy in that suit? It's not really a robot at all.
That couldn't happen.
But once that robot gets into gear, you're really going to see him kick some Aztec.
He didn't put up much of a fight at all.
Oh, Mummy, hold me.
I think it's really the human part of him that's failing.
I looked up anti-climax in the dictionary, and it said, see Aztec Mummy.
So constipation.
No, that looks real. Yeah, I think that's real.
I didn't know Billy Barty was in this.
He's got a small part. Ah!
And go back to the grave of our ancestors, where we should never have interrupted your eternal
And never darken this
sleep.
film again.
Joel? Isn't that a demon dog? Joel?
Demon dog?
Oh, how many feet? Thank you.
We see that the demon dogs have completely taken over the SOL, and Joel and the bots figure out that they need to lure the dogs away in the same fashion one would an earthly dog. They decide to have the dogs play fetch, and this leads to the best moment in the whole episode.
Ouch! What gets a dog going on Earth?
Well, chasing rabbits, sticks, cars, licking, scratching, tennis balls,
That's it, tennis balls. That big disposal ball is shaped like a giant ball. We'll push it out the Bayport doors. Head down there, keep your fingers crossed if you got them. Put in fetch mode on my mark, now. All right, they're gone.
Joel, I don't want to be a killjoy, but doesn't fetch mean go get and bring back? Oh.
I thought after the crawling eye that it would only be uphill from there, but I was wrong. Not only do we have even more lackluster host segments, but at least the Crawling Eye movie was so stupid that it was memorable. This movie is so stupid you just forget about it as soon as you see it. With the already rougher riffing, and such an awful movie they had to tackle, I definitely can't blame them for the episode being so boring. But of the 2 episodes we've seen thus far, this is the weaker one. But we'll see if it'll hold on to that title next time when we watch episode 103, Mad Monster. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I want to give a special thanks to my Patreon supporters, including Jill Johnson and Kevin Nata. And if you'd like to check out the page and the rewards I have to offer, I'll have the link down below. And since this month is both the premiere of Season 11 of the show, as well as my 1-year anniversary of the channel, my next review will be the Riff Treks Live MST3K reunion show, which is what sparked my channel's madness in the first place. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys later.
That's the end of our experiment. I hope you're happy.